everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Plant Powered Metro New York's monthly show, Cooking with Chef Carole. My name is Wendy Sachs. I'm on the board of directors for Plant Powered Metro New York, and we're very happy to welcome you to our monthly series. We are also being co-sponsored by the Marlene Meyerson JCC Manhattan. So special welcome to the members of the JCC, to our own community, to any newcomers, and an extremely special welcome to our new cohort of the 21-day Jumpstart. I know you're probably, I think, a week or something in and just starting the actual meal planning. So I'm very glad you're here. Congratulations on your accomplishments so far. And we're happy to have you on the show, join us for the show. Plant Powered Metro New York empowers people to achieve better health and overcome chronic disease through a whole food plant-based approach to nutrition. We offer evidence-based education, resources, and a grassroots network of support to create community and to inspire change. And together, as leaders and organizers and educators, we raise awareness about the dramatic health benefits of whole food plant-based nutrition. We empower individuals to make their own lifestyle choices and adjustments, and we lead projects that spark changes in food policy, practice, and food culture. A few general announcements on behalf of the organization. It's January. The farmers markets in New York are practically empty right now, just because of the incredibly freezing weather. But you can still find a few farmers who are offering squashes and potatoes and sweet potatoes and onions, and all provide a hearty fare for our winter meals. As always, we encourage you to buy locally and to eat organic, and even better than organic, if you can find things that are regeneratively farmed. The quality of the soil is important, and we encourage that when you're making your food choices. Okay, a couple of upcoming events, and then I promise you we'll jump to the show. At Plant Powered Metro this week, Tuesday, January 28th, we're doing an in-person Vietnamese dinner social in Chinatown. So if you're in the New York area, Connecticut, New Jersey, anywhere nearby, please come join us. We have a cooking demo and a cookbook launch with one of our favorite chefs, along with Chef Carole, is Chef Kathy Caton Grazzini. She's got a new cookbook, vegan cookbook, that's coming out. So please join us for that on Wednesday, January 29th. There's a plant-powered children's festival this Sunday going on in Brooklyn. It's from 10 until 5. It's not our event, but we're among the participants and sponsors, but there'll be all kinds of activities for children and families that day. And then a jump into February. On February 11th, there's a potluck with Ethos Farm to Health, which is out in New Jersey, and we're doing an event together. There are probably other events. Please go to our website. Please sign up. Please join us. This community is really all about community, joining in this way of eating and this way of pursuing health. Finally, we now have, actually, there was one more thing, which is another member of the community, Victoria Moran, has a new book, and we're doing a book thing event with her on Wednesday, February 12th. So please go to the website. You can find our events. Please let us know where you're from in the chat, and please ask questions in the chat. Carole and I usually allow time during the demo, and if not, we'll allow a few minutes at the end of the demo for questions. And if you're enjoying the presentation, please like us on Facebook or on YouTube, or if you're on LinkedIn, please press like. Okay, back now to Carole. Carole, what's on the menu today?
Oh, Wendy, so good to see you, and Happy New Year to everyone. I can still say that we're still in January, and it's our first demo of the year. I can't believe, Wendy, we're starting I've lost track now. I guess our fifth year. I think
Yeah.
this coming season, it's incredible, incredible, incredible. And I want to say at the farmers market in the winter, I always say apples, apples, apples. That's what there are. And so many people writing books, Wendy. I can't believe it. People we know and love so much. And I'm the person that doesn't like writing anything down. So everyone's always lucky to get recipes from me because I literally hate writing down. So people always ask me, when is your book? I'm like, never, never, because I'm not a person that writes things down.
That's
But
why we're doing this live. Much more charming live.
I am excited about today because one, we have the jump starters, and somebody I saw, sometimes I think I can't read a thing. My phone is this small, and people are typing in things. And someone did ask what a jump start was, and so maybe you could write that later. I'll just tell you it's a 21-day program that Plant Power Metro New York offers, probably at least 4 times a year, and it's 21 days, and we work with doctors and mentors. Basically, that's the short of it. And I was in a jump start, the very first one. And why was I in a jump start when I knew exactly how to cook? I didn't know, going from being a vegetarian to eating whole food, plant-based, SOS free, I didn't know if I could do it. So I signed up for the 21-day program just to see if I could do it. And in 21 days, if I couldn't do it, I was going back to my old ways. But during that very short time, I learned so much, and I really started to feel so much better, so much more energetic. And I clearly remember saying to Dr. Barnard, like, I am going to be on the moon. I'm so energetic. And he said, no, no, you must stay here on Earth to teach people. So I'm here, and we're going to do so much today. And I'm quite excited because I can't tell you how I love Middle Eastern food. I don't have any real offerings in where I live of lots of Middle Eastern, Lebanese, Israeli food here. I'm in New Mexico, and so I do miss that kind of food a lot. But today's a really good foundational program on many, many levels. We're going to make baked falafel. And those of you that live in big metropolitan cities who can go to a cafe or go to a falafel stand, get falafels and say, why would I need to make falafels if I can just go get them? Well, one, most of the time they are fried. There are some chains that do bake falafel. And if you can find that, that's really ideal so that you're not eating all that oil. And the other reason that today is such a great foundational program, even if you're brand new and say, boy, that is going to be too difficult for me to learn how to do those things, you can sit back and absorb and learn, because today we're using everything that we out of our back pocket. Basically everything that we do when we're not eating processed sugar, oil, and salt, we need to figure out how to bring up the flavor, how to make it robust, how to make it satisfy our palate. And everything that we are using today are vegetables. We're using a lot of vegetables. We're using some legumes, but we're mainly going to be using a lot of fresh herbs. We're going to be using spices, and we're also going to be using citrus. Those are the three main things when you're not putting salt and sugar and oil in your food that you need to have right handy in your pocket. So we're going to start out with the falafels. Then we're going to make harissa. We're also going to make a wonderful wasabi dressing. And we're also going to make a very simple tahini. So we're going to need a little bit of equipment. And I always say, if you're starting out brand new and you have nothing, you own nothing, I would get yourself a food processor, because it's a real aid in helping you prepare. And it acts, it can puree things, and it can do so many things for you. It can grate, it can mince, it can do a lot of things. So if you're not having anything in your kitchen, that is one of the first things I recommend, is to get a food processor. So let's start, because otherwise we'll never get going. And what we want to do today is have chickpeas. The base of the falafel is the chickpea. And some of you might love this because you always used canned beans, but this time I'm going to request that you actually get the dried bean. I'm not going to say it's okay to use a can. Those are already cooked and they're very soft. And what we want is just soaked chickpeas. That's all we want. So we want a cup and a quarter, okay, of chickpeas. And what I did was I put them in a bowl last night, and you want to cover them with water, about 4 inches of water, and you just want them to soak. That's all you want them to do. You're never going to cook them. Yep, they're good. They are soaked. They puff up a lot, maybe 3 times the amount, because look at how many I have now. And I started with a cup and a quarter. And then what you're going to do is you're going to drain the water, and then you're going to really pat them dry. And you really want to not skip the patting dry. You want them to be dry. So I drained mine in a colander that was like this hours ago, and they're totally dry. So if they weren't totally dry, I would just pat them with a towel. Okay, so those are going to ultimately go into the food processor. But let's do the other things first, okay? So we need to have onions, and some people use scallions, but here I actually like to use a half a cup of yellow onion, and I have peeled it already. This is slightly a smaller one, not a big one. And I might just use a little bit of the other half. So I'm kind of using 3/4. And why am I doing that when I told you we need just a half a cup? I'm going to do that because my onion's really small, and we need about a half a cup. So I like to put the onion and the garlic in first. You don't have to do that, but I like knowing that it's starting to get smaller, and we need to have 3 cloves of garlic. So I've already peeled the cloves of garlic, and we're just going to put the lid on like this, and it's going to be noisy, and I'm just going to pulse it for a couple of seconds. Okay. Now I use the food processor a lot to do that exact thing. Sometimes when I'm making soup and I'm super lazy and I don't feel like cutting anything and I don't feel like mincing anything, I just throw things in here, and this will be ready to start a sauce or a soup. And it's basically grated onions and minced onions and chopped garlic. So that is what the machine is awesome at. Okay. So now what we want to do is I'm going to put in half of our chickpeas. I don't have a really big bowl on my food processor, and so I'm going to kind of do this in batches. And what we need is we're going to need a lot of parsley and cilantro. And if you have mint, that makes it even more just a extra special. So you want 2 cups of packed fresh herbs, okay? And I usually do about a cup of parsley, a cup of cilantro, and then I just throw in whatever mint I have. So I washed all that. You want to definitely get all the sand out, and then you want to pack it into your measuring cup. So this right here is going to be 1 cup, okay? 1 big cup. And I even have some stems in there, and that's okay. And everyone's going to pack this a little bit differently, but I'm just going to put this in like this. Okay, and usually I overfill the food processor, but I'm trying not to do that today. So at this moment, I'm just going to pulse this and get this going, okay? And occasionally we're going to want to scrape the sides of the bowl down. And this is so much better. Do you know, when I made this yesterday, I literally had the bowl totally full, and it was taking so long to get anything spinning. I thought I had to end up taking it all out. It was such a crazy thing. I thought I better teach this better today. So you're gonna pulse this on and off, and you're looking for a crumble, but you're not looking to puree it. So it's kind of a fine line, but not too fine a line. Not too fine, because you can see when it's going to start to kind of stick together. This actually looks very, very good. And I'm going to take a bowl and I'm actually going to put it right into this bowl right here. Okay, this is batch number 1, so that I don't overload the, and it's got all the garlic and all the onions. So we're going to have to make sure that we really mix up this, not batter, but this mixture. Okay, so this is what this looks like, all crumbly, but we still have more to go. Okay, so we have our rest of our chickpeas, which is going to be right there. Let's get rid of that bowl. And then we have another cup. Now, I told you I like using a little mint, so I'm going to put a little mint into my cup here, have it at the bottom here. And then again, it's hard to say, you just want to pack this. And again, every person is going to do this a little bit different. And the goal is to have a mixture of parsley and cilantro. But as I said earlier, if you have the additional mint, it gives it a special extra layer. So I'm going to put that into there. Okay. And we can now put our herbs in here too. That is fine to do that right at this very moment. So the things that we're going to put in to here and let it get totally mixed is we're going to put, I have it all portioned out here on a plate, but we have 1 teaspoon of ground cumin. We have a 1/2 teaspoon of coriander, which I'm going to show you later what coriander looks like when it's not ground. And then we have a 1/2 teaspoon of cardamom, okay, and a pinch of red of cayenne. Okay, now if you didn't have cayenne, you could definitely substitute out the some red pepper flakes. That would work. Again, normally there'd probably be about a teaspoon of salt that would go into a batter of falafel. So the way that we're bringing up the flavor is with the cayenne, a little bit of spiciness, and we're going to put a little bit of black pepper in as well. I'm just going to give out a few. I'm going to put the black pepper over here because I have this nice grinder, and I'm just going to give it a few nice stirs. Okay, so we'll put that right there, and we're going to make sure this gets going here. Okay, and it's important, as I said earlier, to scrape the sides of your bowl down because it does want to climb up, and you do want it, you want crumbles, but you want it to see where it's starting to all come together. But it's never going to come together like in a ball. Okay, I think we've got it. I think it looks really perfect. And really perfect means if I can show it to you close up, that's what it really looks like. I don't know if that's something you can see on the camera. Now, remember, we've put in most of our spices, and we've done it in 2 batches only because my bowl can actually handle it all, but then it takes forever if you don't do it in 2 batches. Some people have bigger bowls on their food processors. And I love my Cuisinart so much. I've had it since my college days. I have replaced the bowl once and the blade once, but once you own it, I feel like it's a long-lasting machine. I'm just getting this clean. And we're going to really want to mix this because we want all the herbs, all the spices and everything to be thoroughly, want the onions distributed. So we're mixing this. Now, what else is going to go in this? We are going to put a tablespoon of some kind of flour, and often it's just all-purpose flour, but for those of you that are gluten-free, you wouldn't want to put in all-purpose flour. And because I'm have a lot of different kinds of flours, I actually putting in chickpea flour, 1 tablespoon, and that just kind of helps hold things together, is the 1 tablespoon of flour. So mine is going to be chickpea, which means that this would technically be a gluten-free falafel. If you were to use flour, just keep that in mind for those of you that try to avoid the gluten.
Carol,
Yes,
a quick
Wendy.
interruption, quick question. There's actually a question. Does this individual is asking, does she have to use any flour?
You don't actually. It's actually okay. I have seen many, many recipes that have no flour. I have also have seen people using the canned chickpeas. It's not like it can't happen. It's just not the normal thing. And what you might as well follow the normal thing in this sense, because what are you having to do? You're not spending hours cooking the beans. You're just buying the beans and soaking the beans. And it's a good first step if you're someone that has never done any of that before. And you say, oh, it just takes too long to like deal with beans. This is a good first step to learn how to just soak the beans. And then you drain them and then they're ready to go. Now, there is an error I noticed in the recipe that it had said baking soda, 3/4 teaspoon. And some people do use baking soda, but I actually prefer baking powder. So if you have your recipe in hand, just note that I prefer to use the baking powder. Baking soda is a pure alkaline compound. It has sodium bicarbonate in it. And it actually needs an acid for it to react. And the good thing about baking powder is that it already contains an acidic, and so all it needs is something moist to make it active. So again, your recipe probably says soda, and soda is often used. I see people using that, but I actually prefer the powder. So just note that, okay? So I'm just now going to mix the baking powder in with the flour, and I'm going to just see how this is holding together. Okay, it's pretty good. It can be a little fragile, but what it is going to require the most now is for it to sit in the refrigerator for at least a half an hour. Okay, that is pretty essential. And it could sit for several days. So if you were not wanting, if you wanted to make this on one day and then cook it up another day, this mixture is just fine to put away in an airtight container and just let it sit. Now, of course, it is just, you need to taste it. I'm going to do that right now. Mmm, it is so yummy. If it wasn't so yummy, I would say maybe it needs a little bit more black pepper or another little bit of adjustment of seasoning, but it actually is quite perfect. So from here, we don't need these fresh herbs anymore. And I usually just, you could leave it in this container, but for my own convenience, I like putting it in a smaller bowl. Anything that's going into the refrigerator should just get into a smaller container. So I'm just going to take this out and up out of this mixing bowl, and it's going to be fantastic. And like I said, you could make them uh, just a few at a time because the mixture can stay in the refrigerator for many, many days. Okay, so that is all ready. And what I'm going to do here is just pat that down. And then I think somewhere I thought, I don't know where it went. I have so many things out. And oh, I know where it is. I know just where it is. I have these little plastic lids so that I'm not having to use saran wrap all the time. So I made a batch yesterday because I wanted to be able to demonstrate how to shape them and fold and bake them. So this is what I was looking for everywhere on the counter. This is going to fit right over, go from one bowl to the next. And there we've got it. And that's going to now go into the fridge.
Carol,
Yes, Wendy.
couple of questions.
Okay.
There's a question, is most mint spearmint?
Ah. Yes, most mint is spearmint, but there's peppermint, but spearmint is most. Now, the two things I think about in my head all the time when I'm shopping, and I miss so much about New York. And I think anybody that lives in a metropolitan area will not have this as an issue. But in New York, I used to buy big bunches of mint at the store, really big bunches, which I loved. I would make hot tea with it, iced tea. I would do so many things. And then I also would get big bunches of fresh dill. And where I live now, for some reason, those two herbs I can only get in these tiny little packages, like this bit, this tiny. And I used to have so much fresh mint that I would let it spoil, or somebody I would have to split it with a friend. And now look at, I get this much mint in a package. It's like the tiniest amount. So hopefully, where you live, you have access to a lot of fresh herbs, and you can get big bunches of mint and big bunches. But that
We
should
are a
answer.
little, we're definitely spoiled in the supermarkets here in terms of the herbs. Um,
Yes.
Another question is, why are you using baking powder at all? Is it necessary?
Um, it probably isn't necessary. It's not like it rises, and it's something that you could omit. You could. But I've learned so much of my Middle Eastern cooking over time from so many different people. I had worked with an Israeli chef for a while, and I love Atam Olengi more than anything. I probably cooked every single thing at one time, from the Jerusalem cookbook when I was still eating not on a vegan diet. And I've learned so much from him. And I guess that I powder is just it's in most falafel recipes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you're gonna see the ball rise like a cake. It's not going anywhere. And I think if you admitted it, I think it would be okay. But I think it does make it a little bit fluffy.
And if you did swap the baking powder for baking soda, is it the same amount, the three quarters?
Yes, it would be the same. It could be the same. It could be.
Okay, great. That's it.
Yeah, and you know what? Everything is experimental. Like I said, like yesterday I did one thing and today I did another. Yesterday I put all the mixture into the bowl and tried to process it, and it took forever. So everyone has to like kind of learn from their own mistakes and their own methods. And what tastes delicious to me might not be delicious to somebody else, right? Like somebody, the mixture that we just put away, someone might say, "Boy, it really needs something," And honestly, I even have thought about putting in a little chickpea miso into it, because I think it would, any more of the chickpea flavor that you can get into it, I think is a good idea. That's why I like using the flour.
Yeah.
So it's just added flour, that flavor. You really want that flavor. So, any other questions, Wendy?
No, we are good to go. I'm loving these questions. I think the questions really, yeah, excellent. So we're good.
Okay, so there are two ways of going about these falafels. My way is always the oven. Why? Because anybody that knows me knows that I lived in Manhattan for a long time. I'm minimalistic on how many kitchen items I own, but I have a very good friend here in house who has an air fryer, and I have been so loving it that I've been thinking, do I need an air fryer? But it's so much fun, and it browns really fast. So I'm just going to tell you the two ways of cooking these falafel without deep frying them. My choice is really the baked in the oven. It's simple, okay? But for sure, those of you that have the air fryer and that are experienced air fryers, I'm not an experienced air frying person, but I certainly have been learning. And my friend lent me her air fryer, which I have back there. And I did air fry some of the falafel today to show you what they look like. But I don't want to do it right here in person because it's quite a noisy machine. So we'll talk about the air fryer, but both the air fryer as well as the oven both get set at 375 degrees. Now, if your air fryer doesn't do 375 and you need to make it 400, or then you're just going to have less time. But to make it simple for me to remember, I just made both of them the same temperature. 375 for the air fryer, 375 for the oven. Okay? So then what we're going to do is we're going to get a little setup going here. And I have parchment, a piece of parchment. I have some mixture left. I have a plate. And optional, this is totally optional, but I have some sesame seeds, and I just like rolling the falafel once they're shaped. I like actually rolling them in the sesame seeds. You don't have to do that. It just makes it decorative and pretty, and I'm all about pretty. So we want also to have a bowl near us. Okay, there's a lot of little setup here, and I'm just trying to make things fit here with a little teeny bit of water. And we want our little scooper, and I'm always losing it because I'm always, but this is my favorite. If anybody was to have one scooper in their kitchen, this is what they call a number 40. I'd say it's about a tablespoon and a half. I use it for everything, cookies, and now we're going to use it for falafel. But anytime you are portioning out things, it's really nice to make it all even and uniform. And yes, you could grab it and roll it and have all different size ones, or maybe you're really good at it and it all could be uniform just without the scooper. But you want to scoop it. So you want to pat it in here, right? And you could put it right down. I always believe that when you're doing multiple, like many things like this, that is the Henry Ford method, which is you scoop everything that you need, right? And I don't have a lot of batter here because I used a lot of it for the air fryer. I'm actually coughing a little bit because I have a little parsley in my throat. So this is, and I probably have enough just for one more. So we're not going to bake a lot of them because I actually air fried, and I'm going to have much more. Okay, so these are now on the plate, right? That's a littler one than the others, but that's okay. And then you want to just kind of get your hands just a little moist, not soaking wet. And what you want to do is you want to squeeze it hard, and it is a little moist, and you just want to make it into a ball. Now, we made balls for the air fryer, but there's another shape that you could make, which is just a small patty by taking the ball and just flattening it. So I think it's nice when you're baking them to have them flat. You could definitely keep them as balls. It's whatever you want. Now, I've eaten so many falafels in my lifetime that I feel like having them as a patty is kind of often what you see, because when they put it into the pita or they put it into the lavash and they roll it up and make the sandwich, they always smash them, right? There, you don't eat them still as balls because you have to smash them to fit into the sandwich. I think I should get some water.
I was just going to suggest that, Carol. And as you're getting the water, there is a question on how many balls does this recipe make?
You know, it's such a good idea as someone asking me that. And I wondered it today. I think it makes probably, let me just think about it, okay? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9. I think it makes at least 20. 20 balls because I made some this morning and gave them away to a friend. So I've been making them kind of all day long because I don't know, I just feel like it's such a treat to have them. And we're going to get this last bit. And again, you only need the mixture to be really cold. That part is super important. And just dampening your fingers just really helps so things aren't sticking. Okay, look, we're only going to bake a very few, but that's okay. I guess coughing is like a natural thing today for some reason. Wendy, I know you're just getting
Apologies.
better. You're
Yes.
just getting better. So here I have my little sesame seeds, and you could just sprinkle them on the top, but I'm just going to actually kind of put them in upside down and put them on top here, just literally, and smash them. And then like just pick them up. And I have black and white sesame seeds here, so they're really pretty. Okay. Again, this is a step that you absolutely do not have to do. Okay. This is Carol being wanting to have things very pretty and very decorative. Okay, this is not a necessary step. And then again, we have the oven preheating. This one all of a sudden just wanted to fall apart, but it's okay. You have to be delicate. It does want to kind of break apart. I do know when people fry them, sometimes they actually fall apart right into the oil. So that's what's good about the baking, is that they're not really going to fall apart. Once you get them in the oven, we're going to put these very few, into the oven. Let me just rinse my hands. The oven has been preheating. And we basically have just a very few that we're going to bake, but that's what they look like. And they're going to go into the oven, and we are going to, again, it's at 375. And I'm going to flip over my recipe here. And we're going to cook them for at least 5, maybe 8 minutes. We'll look at them in a few minutes. Now you might wonder, how long do they cook in the air fryer? Well, I'm learning because I've never used an air fryer till just recently. So those of you who might have done this before or want to write in the chat box your experience with air frying. But I say that they need, in the air fryer, they need about 15 minutes. Like, that's the most. It just depends how crispy you want them. When I did them for 8 minutes, they were already starting to brown, and then I did it another few minutes more. So you're going to have to do a little bit of experimenting and just see. But they're very fast in the air fryer. So and it's a little noisy, but it's pretty fun to do. And I'm now thinking of having one, even though I can't stand the sight of a big machine. But I think it could be a really great thing to have fun with in the kitchen.
A quick question, Carol. Once you form the balls, can they be frozen?
Um, Probably. I know they could be refrigerated for sure.
And then cooked
I would
later?
probably bake them and then freeze them.
Yeah.
That I would probably, if I were to freeze things, that's how I would do them. But I would definitely bake them off and then put them in the freezer.
Very good.
But the good thing about when you have them already, and I can just give you a little sneak peek right now, even though we're not going to put it all together. But here are the ones that I did in the air fryer. So you can see they're very brown. They're all decorated with their sesame seeds, and they're quite delicious. I like them to be hot, so you do want to kind of eat them right away, but you don't have to, because they're a pretty great snack. And we're going to make a sandwich out of them just when we start to plate everything, but I want to get all the other sauces made. And what is super great about falafels is you can have them in the salad, or you can have them in pita, or you can just pop them in your mouth. So there's many forms of ways of eating them, and I think they could make a great just snack.
They look delicious.
Does anybody have any questions before we move on to the next things?
We're good to go. Oh, wait, hang on. Do you notice a difference from the air fryer to the baked oven? In other words, or for example, is one drier than the other? Or
ah,
do they both taste moist
ah,
on the inside?
it's a good question, because I think that I prefer, I mean, it's a matter of preference, right? Because the air fryer gets it crusty on all the sides. All the whole thing gets crusty. And of course, the bigger you make them, you'll have more filling and less hard to crust, right? In the oven, I like making them smaller, and so that they brown, because they're only going to really brown on the top and on the bottom, not necessarily the sides. So I think that delicious either way. I think the crunch is awesome in the air fryer, but not everybody has an air fryer. I don't own an air fryer. So I just wanted to bring it up because I know it's a common utensil that people have in a machine in the kitchen. People love using it. And I've just never had an opportunity because I lived in a really tiny, tiny apartment and couldn't bear to have any more kitchen items. And even though I have a full kitchen where I live now, I still, when I was lent this wonderful air fryer, I'm like, oh my God, it's too big for my kitchen. It's like, it's intrusive. But if you have a nice little place to store the machine, I think it would be a fun thing to have.
Super.
Okay, so we can move on to the next things because we have a bunch of little sauces to do. And I think, I want to talk about having things at your disposal. What I mean by that is, and Wendy will know this clearly, because she was with me when I was transitioning from my vegetarian to my plant-based SOS life, and giving up just throwing olive oil and vinegar onto your salad, just grabbing it from the cabinet. I no longer have that just ease. That I think what really helps in this lifestyle is to have uh, a a refrigerator or a pantry ready to go with things. Okay, just like have one dressing that you love, whether it's a balsamic or a carrot ginger dressing. Always have a sesame dressing. Have something you love already in a jar. Sometimes I've got 4 jars, 5 jars going in the refrigerator that can go over vegetables, can go over grains, can be versatile in many ways. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to show you a couple of my very favorite sauces, dips. Sometimes they're dips, sometimes they're sauces, sometimes we can just call them condiments. But I'm going to show you a few favorites that I love so much that are very versatile. And the very first one we're going to do is harissa paste. Now, this might not be for every single person. If you're shy about having heat meaning spice, then it might not be the spice for you. But for many, many, many years, I bought harissa in a jar, which I still have in my fridge, a jar, or you can buy it in a tube. It's a Moroccan condiment full of spices and made from chilies and mostly red peppers. Now, you can use dry chilies or you can use fresh chilies. In the recipe that I'm providing for you today, I'm actually using dried chilies. So I'm going to recommend, and I'm going to show you. Now, you might say, oh, well, Carole lives in Taos, New Mexico, and she has access to all these chilies. Well, let me tell you, wherever you are, chili getting is easy, okay? And they're very common. This is a very common brand. And I'm just going to show you, they often will come in a bag that looks just like this, okay? And I'm recommending that you either use what you call guajillo, or what they call New Mexican red chilies. Why do I recommend these ones? Because they're the more mild. Every kind, you could use any kind of dried chili. It's just that some chilies are smoky tasting. These are the more mild. Now, if you're a little bit scared of heat, you're going to maybe want to use a little bit less dried peppers than I'm about to use, okay? If you're scared of the heat, okay? But hopefully, I'm hoping that you're not scared of the heat and you're willing to just dive in. So these are the things that we're going to need, and I want to show you. So I have already taken those peppers. These are the guajillo, and they have a lot of seeds and they have a stem on them. Now you can do it in 2 ways. You can either put, as I said, rehydrate your chilies. That's the first thing you want to do. So you would take your chilies out of a bag, you would put them in a heat-proof bowl, you would put 6 chilies in there, and then you would cover them with boiling water, and you would let them soften up. Okay, that's what you would want to do. Ultimately, you want to rehydrate them. Okay, now if you do that method where you're just taking them right from the bag, and you're going to want to, after they rehydrate, you're going to pull the stem out, you're going to open them up, and you're going to make sure that you get out all the seeds, because the seeds are what are really hot. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't put some seeds into your mixture. It's just that you don't, they have a lot of seeds. I tend to want to just pull the stem off right away when they're still dried, shake them, and then all the seeds just fall to the plate. And then I put the boiling water over this de-stem, de-seeded. But it doesn't matter. Your goal is just to rehydrate them and get the stem and the chili seeds out. Okay, so we are going to have 6 of these. You need approximately 1 ounce. You can see some are bigger than others, right? Look at that. So we're going to use 6. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and oh, here's a kind of broken one. To tell you the truth, I'm going to use it all because I have just a little bit left over here, and why not use it all? Okay. And you can save that water because sometimes you need to add a little water, and you've soaked them to rehydrate them, right? So it's good to save that water because that water is spicy and it's worth saving, using. You could use it in black bean soup, or you could use it. There's so many usages. I throw nothing out. If those of you that have really cooked with me see that I save everything because I'm neurotic about these kinds of things. Now, let's do the next step because I have to move away a little bit to the oven. And I didn't put the burner on the counter today, so we'd have a lot of room. I'm going to dry roast the spices here because the spices are the key to this sauce, because it's a very spicy red pepper sauce, right? And we want to really constant roast these. And I'm going to explain to you. Let me just show you actually. So I have here 1.5 teaspoons of coriander. Those are the little tiny, little beads, and they're whole. Okay. Now, coriander maybe is one of my favorite spices, and I wanted to show you that I have only 1 jar of coriander in my cabinet, and down here is the whole coriander, right? I buy it in the whole form, and then I keep a little plastic bag inside because once in a while I fill this bag up with the ground coriander. Now, Wendy, who has much more space than I ever had, I bet and I organized her spices with her. She probably has a jar of ground coriander and a jar of coriander seed. But
I
I
do,
like to
Carol. Just for the record, I do.
yes,
But
I
I
seem to
do.
remember that I was jealous of that. Like, oh, Wendy has more space for her spices. But then, and when we were organizing, but this is my way of cutting down the space. And I just have a little bag, and I just wanted to show you that tip. And so we have the coriander. We have 1 teaspoon of cumin seeds. Now, before in the falafel batter, we used cumin powder. And then we have 1 teaspoon of caraway. This is going to go on the burner back here, and we're just going to dry roast it. Now we have to kind of watch it, and I'm going to peek in the oven. The falafel are cooking. We have to watch that because we don't want them to burn. We just want to dry roast them. And you could have done the same thing for the falafel. What happens when anytime you heat the spices, you're like intensifying their flavor. So if you wanted to even take your dried spices from the falafel, you could have roasted those too. But for here, I find it essential to have them roasted. And you usually want to shake the pan a little bit so they're moving around. We leave that for 1 minute, okay? And we're going to have 3 cloves of garlic, okay? So I have finally I got a garlic head that had some big cloves. That's going to go in there just like that, okay? I'm not even going to bother right now. And what else? The base of this condiment is the red peppers, and you want roasted red peppers. Now, I tend to like to just buy my red peppers and cut them open, cut them in half, take their seeds out, put them on a sheet pan with parchment, and put them in a hot oven like 400 or 425, and I roast them, and they come out all collapsed. As soon as you get them out of the oven, you put them in a bowl or in a brown bag, and you steam them. And then what happens is they have black sides like that. That's one. And that black side needs to get peeled. So basically, you're taking off the skin that has been charred, and you basically have a cooked red pepper. Now, you don't have to cook your own roasted red peppers to make this particular sauce. You could buy the kind in the jar and just, you want to not buy the oily ones. You want to buy the ones that are just in a brine. And then you want to drain them, get rid of their water. And then you want to measure out so that you have about a cup and a half. Okay, so you don't have to make your own red peppers. I use 3 very large peppers, and they're here, and they're going to go straight into here. And I have a yellow. You could use orange, yellow, and I love the little juice. I always love the little juice that comes from the roasted pepper. So we have right now in the machine 3 cloves of garlic. We have to go back there right now, make sure our seasoning is getting toasted. You can smell it. It smells great. It looks good. It's going to go in there too. Okay, right now, all in there, dry roasted. And we are going to also have other things in here. Tomato paste is something that you occasionally do see in the ingredient list in the harissa. It really is about the peppers, whether they're dried or fresh. It's about the definitely having roasted red peppers. And I found that 1 tablespoon of tomato paste just gave it a rounder, fuller flavor for a condiment. So I've measured out 1 tablespoon of no salt tomato paste. And I have talked so much about tomato paste in our demos, and I think I left it out over here. I did. I love this brand called Bio Nature. Why do I love it? It comes in a glass jar, and the jar is great to have when it's empty, and it's no salt added. And it can stay in the refrigerator for a number of weeks, actually. But if you're someone that doesn't use a lot of tomato paste, I always say to take out a couple tablespoons, portion it out on little pieces of foil or into little containers. It could be ice cube trays, and just freeze it into tablespoon portions. Okay, and then you could take it out of your freezer, and you will have not let a whole jar or a can spoil, because that's a frustrating thing to have used 1 tablespoon out of a whole can, and then the rest of it just kind of moves to the back of your refrigerator and you totally forget it. That is a super drag for that to happen. So getting it in the freezer and leaving it there, and maybe putting the little packages, I used to do this all the time, into a little sandwich bag in your freezer is super helpful, because that way you don't lose them in the freezer. It's no different losing it in the fridge or losing in the freezer. You want to know that it's there. And then I usually put a date on it when I put it into the freezer, so I know how long it's been in there. Okay, now we need, normally this kind of thing would have quite a bit of salt in it, but we're going to use our lemon as our salt. Okay, and what I'm going to do is, there are 2 kinds of zesters. Most people are familiar with the microplane, which is awesome. I love it very much. But this is a zester that has just 5 little holes. I've already very much washed this, right? And we're just going to zest this lemon. Okay, and this is a big lemon, so that's good, because a big lemon is going to give you about a 1/4 cup of juice. If you are using a small lemon, you want to really make sure that you get almost a quarter cup of juice. Okay, a quarter cup of juice is going to be 4 tablespoons. Okay, so just like carrots, just like oranges, things come in, just like garlic cloves, things come in different sizes. Sometimes you get a juicy lemon, sometimes you get a lemon that has no juice in it. Okay, so I'm just going to cut this open, and I could tell it was a big one and it was juicy. And I'm going to prove this point to you here. I have the juicer, and I was just going to juice it for you, because I do think, just from feeling and looking at it, that it's going to give us a quarter cup. Okay, so I'm going to squeeze this. And again, if it's a juicy lemon, you're always going to get 2 tablespoons. That's pretty much a answer. Now, I save these all the time. You can see, you can't see my sink, but I save these. I clean my cutting board with a little salt and a little lemon. I clean all my copper pots with the leftover citrus and the salt, because that's what gets the copper pots clean. And we've got a quarter cup exactly here. Exact. Okay, so this lemon's going here. We'll let this juice sit here. And this is going to go in, this juice. And then I have all this zest. Now, remember I told you maybe you're used to a microplane, and the microplane does grating for you. It makes it all, but because we're using the machine, I'm just going to throw that in there. Okay. And we need a quarter cup of water, because the water is going to help. Now, usually this condiment would have anywhere from a quarter cup to a half a cup of oil. So we're going to use water just as a way of getting the consistency, so it's more like a dip. It could be paste-like. You can have it paste-like, but I like it to be a little bit runny so it feels like a dip. Okay, so let's get that going. I have the machine here, and we're just going to pulse it. And like I said, just like before, you do want to always have a little tiny spatula around. And oh my God, just smelling it. You take the lid off and you're like, oh my gosh. You're just like, what is this? And I'm not kidding you. You could eat it on everything. Now at this moment, I don't want to take it off the lid, but I'm going to try to show you. You see, it's pretty chunky. You could leave it like that. It's okay. It's nearly ready. It is nearly ready. But again, it just depends on how much peppers that you want to have, the consistency that you want. So I'm literally going to put this on. Now, when you taste it, again, this is something that you want to taste. It's hard to kind of figure out, like, how do I adjust it if I need to adjust it? But you're looking for a sauce that is hot. And what do I mean by hot? If any of you have used sriracha before, sriracha is hot, right? If for some reason it ends up hotter than you desire, like you think, I'm in big trouble here, I've got so much sauce, and it's so hot, I'm in trouble. Honestly, if you needed to, you could add a little bit more red pepper. You could add a little bit more tomato paste, a little water to thin it out. And if you really were desperate and you somehow got to this point and said, oh my God, I've made such a hot spice, I think you could throw 1 medjool date in here and give it just a little tiny bit of sweetness, and that would take away the hotness, if that's where you were with this sauce. Okay, I'm just giving you an example. Okay, now I'm going to taste it and see if it's good. Well, oh yeah, you can absolutely taste the spices. You can taste them that they're roasted. I'm going to add a little bit more water, just a hair more water. take away this. Now you're going to say, what am I going to do with this condiment? What am and I'm literally going to tell you that you can eat it on every single thing. I mean, every single thing. My very favorite is to make toast, smash an avocado on the toast, and then give this a layer of harissa on top. And then you could put, I don't know, sprouts on top. You can do whatever you want from there. You could put more tomatoes on top. You could do whatever you want. It makes fine, fine toast over avocado. You can literally, what else you can do? I've given you a list of things here, and I made a note here in the recipe so you would remember. So you can spread it on a sandwich, right? Instead of putting a sauce on your sandwich, you could spread it on your bread and then, or spread it in your roll up that you're making. It's a condiment. You could toss a little bit of this and toss your tofu and then just bake your tofu and it'll be nice and spicy tofu. You could top your tofu scramble and it would be delicious. You could top your bean burger with this and it would be delicious. You could dip your falafel in here. It would be delicious. And lastly, there are two other things that I suggest. You could put a little bit of this condiment into some plant-based yogurt, like a cashew yogurt or an almond yogurt. Put a little bit in and you would have a wonderful sauce for dipping, or even just any kind of yogurt spicy sauce. Could be for Indian food, it could be for Mexican food, it could be for any kind of food you want. And then you could also put a little bit of it into your tahini. And oh my God, it will send you over the moon, I promise you. And then the last thing I suggest is, if you want, you can take this sauce, not a lot of it, because again, it's very spicy, but you could take a little bit of it and put it in a bowl and toss some cauliflower florets. You could toss eggplant slices. You could toss whole carrots and then put those things in the oven and roast them, and you'll have delicious roasted harissa vegetables. So I'm telling you that it can literally go on everything. It's one of my very favorite spices. It is definitely something that I have bought for years in a package, pre-made in a tube or in a jar. But why not make your own, right? And making your own is so satisfying. And if you end up with so much, you could freeze it. But you know what I did this past week? I made a lot of this already when I had to write up the recipe. And I actually just gave it out to friends. I said, you know what? You're going to love this, and just use it up. Use it on everything. So that's what this is, harissa. And Wendy, are there any questions? Because people might have questions about it.
Yes, there's a few questions. Let me just go back here. Are dried chilies better than fresh for this recipe?
You can literally use either. If you're going to use the fresh, I would roast them in the oven and then peel them so they're like the red peppers. And you probably want to use the serrano, the long skinny ones. You could use jalapeno, but you're going to have to just make some adjustments. I like the dark red chilies, the dried ones, because I don't know, they're so beautiful, and there's something that I always have had in my cabinet, whether I lived in New Mexico or not. I think I was born into chilies, and I love them. I never feel like I can have enough of them. So that's what this looks like, and you can see how powerful and red it is, right?
It's beautiful.
It's really beautiful, and I'm tempted to just dip the falafel in there right this minute, but I'm gonna try to wait. Just hold on. I'm just gonna hold on because we have other things to make.
A quick question, Carol. It does jump back to for the falafels. It's another question about the flour. So the question is, are there any flours not to use with
Oh, I
the
would probably, I mean, I don't know, there are only 1,000 flowers, so how am I going to say what not to use? I would say the reason I chose chickpea flour is because we have a chickpea base. And anytime you can intensify something, it's like when you make cornbread, throw in some fresh corn because you're already dealing with cornmeal. You might as well have whole pieces of corn. So I gravitated to using chickpea flour. I would use an all-purpose flour, and maybe other than that, like people who maybe like spelt, which is nutty, or they like other kinds of. I would stay away from those ancient grains, those ones that have really strong flavor, and just skip the flour. Okay, it doesn't have to have the flour. It's just that it helps hold it together a little bit.
cool. And then a very quick last question. How long does the harissa last in the fridge?
I would say that it could last a number of weeks. I would say at least 2 weeks. And it's another thing that you could easily freeze. Just like I was, and freezing things, you could either freeze them in a Ziploc bag or in some kind of container. I don't know, Wendy, you just got me those super cubers that I've been using so much. I've been using that thing so much, but mostly for broth. But you could use it for pre-made soup. But you also could put a sauce in there and freeze it. But that's a big cube, those super cubers. If you're going to put it in the freezer, you could freeze it into smaller, like ice cube trays, and then just have a tablespoon at a time. But for me, this goes away in no time whatsoever. So trying to think about it, storing it, isn't an option because it's a condiment that I can eat so often, and it's going to go away. And if you think you have too much of it, just share it with a friend. Someone's going to love you for it. That's for sure. I'm going to look at the falafel while you're seeing if there's any more questions. Oh, they're getting brown already, Wendy. They are getting brown. And
Excellent.
what's really awesome is when things are brown and you don't put the oil, they can turn over really easily. Okay, you could just pick it up. You see how brown it is?
Yeah, it's
It's super
gorgeous. It looks
brown.
great.
It's like super brown already,
Mhm.
right? So if you don't have an air fryer, like this would be, I would be super happy with just this, with no
Mhm.
air fryer. I just have to show you the air fryer because I think it's fun, and a lot of people have them. So I wanted to really give you that as an option. I'm
Much
just going to
appreciated.
rinse up a few things here, Wendy, but is there any other questions before we move on to other things?
Nope, we're pretty good to go. Yeah, we're good
Okay.
to go.
Okay. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make a wasabi orange dressing. And it's more like a dip. I don't know. I keep calling it a dressing because I think it's possible to use as a dressing if you thin it out. This is not my recipe. It's actually written up by Darshana. She's a Forks Over Knives writer. I see a lot of her recipes. I think she's one of the premium, popular writers for Forks Over Knife. And this is a recipe I found a while ago, and I keep going back to it because I really love it. So I thought, well, why not show it if I really love it? Because it's fun, because it uses citrus and it uses some odd combination of things that maybe you think, I wouldn't even use that. I wouldn't even know to use that together. So it's kind of a fun thing in that way. I'm going to move this Cuisinart here, and we're going to replace it. Now, you could make this in the Cuisinart. I'm just too lazy to wash out the bowl. And I have the NutriBullet here, and we'll just plug it in. Again, you don't need to have so many machines. It's just that at the moment, I'm kind of being a little bit lazy about washing everything. So let's get the recipe. It's super simple, super, super simple. And it's a good time of year to do it because you need to have 3 medium oranges. And I find in the wintertime, when oranges are in season, they're super juicy, super delicious. Now, I left one orange here that is whole because I wanted to show you how to peel it in case you don't know how to peel it. I have mentioned this many times, but I like mentioning it over and over again. I try to zest my lemon, my orange, and my lemon, orange, and limes ahead of time, and I like keeping it on a plate just on my counter. So here is all the orange zest, and there's a little lemon zest mixed in here. And I keep this on my counter, and eventually it dries out. And when it dries out, you can kind of grind it with your fingers a little bit, and it kind of just becomes granules. And what do I do with all this zest? It's flavor, and it is really delicious in my morning oatmeal. But I do love it. Sometimes I put it on top of a salad, a green salad. Sometimes I put it into the rice that I'm cooking. Sometimes I put it onto grains. It's just flavor, and it's another way for you to not use salt. And you're always looking for ways to bringing up and making all those flavors come together. And citrus is one of those things. So I zested these oranges that I've peeled, okay? And I don't need to, this orange can go back to where it belongs. And I'm going to take this and show you after I've taken off the zest, right? I'm going to take off the top and I'm taking off the bottom. Then that allows this to sit flat, okay? Flat. And then what you're going to want to do is peel it. Okay, you could try to peel it with your finger, with, regular way, but you're just going all around the whole thing, just like you would cut a skin off of a watermelon. And you want to get all of the skin off. You don't want to leave any of the pith on, right? And I'm thinking to myself, the falafel might be even done in the oven. I'm going to go look at it in 1 second. But all I'm doing is getting all that skin off. Okay, that's what you ultimately want to do. And if you see that you've missed some, just take it off. You don't want to have any of the pith on it. Okay, that is very important. Okay, so what we're going to do now is simple. We're going to throw this orange. We're going to just cut it up. It doesn't matter if you pull the segments apart, it doesn't matter. But I'm just going to break it up in its own way. It's got a lot of juice trying to squeeze in my face at the moment. And you want 3 of these oranges, right? And it might be great. This is almost the season, maybe in California right now, but it depends where you live. It's almost blood orange time. And this could be really great at Valentine's Day if you wanted to make like a red sauce, because you could do it with the blood oranges. I think it would be beautiful. So we want to have 3 oranges. Then we want to add 2 dates. And I have 2 medjool dates. I've taken out their pits and it's going in there. Then we want to have 3 tablespoons of peanut butter. Now you might ask, do you want crunchy peanut butter, smooth peanut butter? It doesn't matter, okay? All I care about is that you buy peanut butter. If you're not making it yourself and you're not grinding it in the store, that you look for the peanut butter that clearly says unsalted on the label, and then you look at the ingredients and all you want to see is peanuts. You do not want to see sugar, added soy, added every other, you don't want to see a paragraph of anything. You want to see peanuts. And if ultimately, ideally, you want organic peanuts. Okay, this label is about ready to fall off. Some peanut butters are better when they settle out and the oil comes to the top. You just like the tahini, which I'll show you later. You always want to get that mixed up properly. And I want to get a little spatula here. And I've already measured out my 3 tablespoons of peanut butter. And somebody might be shaking their head saying, what is she doing? She's putting peanut butter with oranges. I've never done that. And it sounds horrifying, but it's not. Basically, we have a sweet fruit. We have something creamy. We have a fat. So we're basically making a wonderful creamy sauce, right? Because it's got fat in the peanut butter. It's got a little bit of sweet from the medjool and the juice and the wonderful fruit flavor from the oranges. Let's take a minute for 1 minute. I'm just going to go to the back here and ensure that my falafel are done. Oh yes, they're very brown. They are definitely ready to go. So we're just going to turn the oven off, and they are done. How do I know they're done? Because they're brown on both sides. See, brown on both sides. Both sides. And they're really nice and soft.
They look gorgeous, Carol. Lovely.
Yeah, so we're back to the dressing. I just didn't want to distract you here with that. And so now we need to make it a little bit spicy, okay? You think that I've made harissa that is spicy. A little bit of harissa could definitely go in there. But this recipe is called wasabi orange. Now, what is wasabi? Wasabi is a Japanese root vegetable. And sometimes you can buy wasabi paste in a tube, like a toothpaste tube. I actually just get it in a little can, a little teeny can here. It's by Eden. It says wasabi powder. And it literally tells you on the back how to make the prepared. It says that it has horseradish, mustard, and wasabi. That's what's in this powder. But you have to make it into a paste. And we need about 3/4 teaspoon. So what I'm going to do is get a tiny little container, just a little container. And I'm going to get a teaspoon of the wasabi paste, a teaspoon. And it's a powder. And I'm going to put it in there. And then literally on the outside, it says, mix 1 teaspoon with a little hot water. How much water? Just a little bit, because you want it to be a paste. So we're just going to put it in here until it is mixed up. You want to have it become like a paste. And then we're going to use about 3/4 of a teaspoon. Now, when I've done this dressing so many times. The recipe calls for 3/4 of a teaspoon. So if for some reason you had your paste that was already made, then you would squeeze out about 3/4 of a teaspoon. Now, if I were scraping this, you can see that I'm scraping. I have almost 3/4 of a teaspoon. Even though I put 1 teaspoon of powder, it is not a full, it is pretty much a full, I guess it is a full teaspoon. But I'm going to go ahead and use all of it because I tend to like things a little spicier, right? And we have a little bit that we can scrape out here. I always like getting everything all clean, right? And that is going to be our dressing. And we're just going to put this lid on. And this is called a NutriBullet. I like it too. It's a very inexpensive machine. It's going to make a few noises for a second. Now, the NutriBullet isn't as wonderful as the food processor in the sense that you can't open the top and just scrape the sides. There's a little bit of peanut butter that's stuck to the side here. So I'm just going to make sure when I open it that I kind of move that around. But you have to always open it if you want to stir it. We could put it right back on the machine, stirring it. But I tend to, once I take it off and open it, I tend to just like it like this. Okay, look how much sauce it makes. It makes almost, I'd say, probably at least 1.5 cups of sauce, I'm guessing. And I have a nice little jar here for it. And we're just, of course, we're going to taste it, but this needs no adjustment ever. I've made it so many times. It is so yummy. And it's like a dressing. You could use it for a Vietnamese spring roll. You could use it for dipping hot vegetables. You could have it as a spread over greens. There are versatile amount of things that you could do with this. And honestly, I would put it over salad. You could probably put it over noodles too and make yourself like an Asian salad with snap peas and cucumbers and maybe some cilantro and a few whole peanuts and cucumbers and whatever you want to make a spicy noodle salad. This could be it perfectly. So this is your wasabi orange sauce, okay? And I've just put it in a jar and it will stay in the refrigerator for like at least 2 weeks. And you want to serve it cold, okay? I write in the, she writes 4 to 5 days, but I've had mine in the refrigerator for more than 4 to 5 days. I've definitely had it in there for almost 2 weeks, but probably after that, it wouldn't be great. So any questions on that before we move to our very last thing? No questions?
Yep,
Okay.
sorry, I was muted. No questions. We're on to the next
We're
dressing.
on to the very, very last thing that requires no effort whatsoever. And it's going to just be by hand with a tiny little whisk and simplicity. So hopefully all of you know how to make tahini, okay? And I'm going to talk a little bit about a salad that is Israeli salad. I made it in advance. We're going to serve it with our falafel in our sandwich in a few minutes. But what is Israeli salad? It's when everything is all cut up uniformly. You have cucumbers, red pepper, scallions or red onions, and then tomatoes. And then usually it has olive oil and lots of lemon. Mine has no olive oil, and I put a lot of lemons, has a ton of parsley on it, and it's an Israeli salad. For those of you that might want to go back to an old recording, I looked it up because I did teach making falafels in a waffle maker. And in that particular class, I taught a simple tahini dressing as well as I taught this Israeli salad. So that was a long time ago, October 2020, literally October 2020. What would you do? You would go to Plant Powered Metro New York YouTube channel. You would go to the playlists that at the top. You would then find all of Chef Carole. Every program that we've done has been recorded and saved. And you would scroll till you found October 2020, and you could watch that if you wanted to learn how to make Israeli salad or you wanted to make a very simple tahini dressing. Okay, so we're going to make a simple tahini dressing today, but we're going to do a little twist on it because we're going to add fresh dill. Okay, so what I have here in the bowl is, and I have to just look at my recipe because I always do this without a recipe, but I wrote one down so I would know what, so you would have a guide. And recipes are just guides, right? They're not written in cement. They're not the Bible. They're there as a template. They're there for you for a shopping list and a guide. But sometimes I look at recipes and I use them to be inspired, and then I close the book, right? So again, it's good to have a recipe, but it's also good for you to learn your own tastes and how to add or substitute out things because maybe you have allergies or something that you can't eat. You learn how to make things that are appropriate for yourself. So we have 1/3 cup of tahini in this bowl. I also put already 1 teaspoon of cider vinegar. Normally, you don't put cider vinegar into a tahini sauce, but I wanted this to have a little pump, a little vinegar taste. And so we have our tahini. We want to actually get some warm water. Okay, I have a sink full of things, and just get a little bit of warm water. According to the recipe, we need about 1/4 of a cup. Sometimes you need a little more, depending. All tahinis are not created equal. I will tell you that right now. If you live near a Middle Eastern store and you can go get a nice organic tahini from a Middle Eastern store, that is ideal. I try new tahinis all the time. Tahini is much like peanut butter. It has the same consistency, and it also can have added things in it that you don't want. So you're looking for tahini that literally says sesame seeds. That's all it's going to be in the ingredients. So you're going to want to put a little bit of warm water, and you're going to want to get that thick tahini broken down. Okay. Now we also want to add 2 cloves of garlic. And in this kind of dressing where I'm not putting it in a blender, right? And we're just mixing it by hand, I always want garlic to be as finely minced as possible so I'm not eating pieces. So I actually used, I don't know where, oh, here it is, a microplane grater. And I actually just rubbed it. If you have a garlic press, that would work too. So I have 2 cloves here of very, very finely minced uh, uh, garlic. That is going in there. And then we need to have lemon juice is key to making tahini. Now this is very paste like. It looks like cement, so it needs more water, but I'm not going to put the water until we deal with the lemon. Now I'm going to zest the lemon instead of zesting it with the strips. Like I remember I showed you I got these strips. We're actually going to use the microplane this time, and we're just going to have it because then it's already grated for us. And we're taking, this is a washed lemon, okay? You really want a clean lemon, and you want to get that zest off. And that zest is going to add a lot of powerful flavor. We have just a very few minutes. We're almost done. And we're going to squeeze this up. This is going to go in there like that. We need a few twists of black pepper to go in here. And we need to have a whole juice of 1 lemon. So we're going to juice that. And I ran away with the juicer. We're going to put all of that juice in here. Again, this is a pretty big lemon. And we're probably putting approximately a 1/4 cup. If you taste this and you want it more lemony, just add more lemon. It's not a big deal. Now, you want to always, the water is what's going to thin it out. But you want to get your flavors in there before you go adding the more water. We're collecting those, and we're going to mix this. And we have to put this would be tahini dressing, just like this, for your falafel, just like this. But we're making it a little extra special, and we're going to add the fresh dill. Okay, so this would be your tahini dressing. Just nothing in it whatsoever except for garlic, lemon, a little black pepper, and warm water, tahini. But we have got this dill here that we're going to chop up. We put our zest in there too. So I'm going to, a package of dill, again, most of you probably live in a place where you could buy a big bunch of dill. You're looking for about 2 tablespoons approximately to go into this amount of sauce. If you have a little more, you have a little less, that's okay. But I know that this is 2 tablespoons just from looking at it. So we're putting that in there. And then this sauce is going to be delicious. You could even grate cucumbers if you wanted to put in there. It wouldn't be a raita. Raita has a base of yogurt. This is the base is tahini. Now, you could certainly put a tiny bit of harissa in there to spice up this whole sauce. That would be fantastic. So this is still a little bit thick, just a little bit, but I don't want it to be runny, too runny. So I'm just going to add a little water, and then we're going to taste it. Sometimes it needs a little more lemon, but that's about, I want it to be looking like that. And we're going to give it a little taste with a spoon just to see how it is. It's perfect. Perfect and delicious. So that's that. And oh, there's a ton of dill left on my knife. So that definitely needs to go into the sauce. And Wendy, we're pretty much in a good place to wrap things up. The only thing that I was going to show, and maybe I could do it quickly before you go into your final announcements or any final questions, is that I made a little bit of fresh pita. And of course, you would really want to put the pita bread in the oven. You could buy whole wheat pita bread on your own, and sometimes you open it. It depends how you open it, but usually when you're in the falafel store, they cut it open, right? And it has a pocket. It has a pocket, right? It has an opening. And what you would do is you would put your lettuce in there, right? You would put your lettuce, maybe some red onion, and you could just put tomatoes and cucumbers or whatever you want. But because I made the salad in advance, you could just take the salad, put a big scoop of vegetables, right? A huge scoop. You want it to be really full of vegetables. You could put a little more lettuce if you want. You don't really need to put any red onion because there's red onion in that salad. And then you would put your falafel. Of course, our falafel are right here, right? Here's our falafel. And we have these nice little patties, right? Nice little patties are here. Now, this is the way they do it in the store. They take a round falafel and they actually smash it. So it's kind of good just to make the patties. And then you would put your falafel in there, right? And you would eat your sandwich. And that would be your falafel. I would put two falafel. But that is your pita bread with falafel and salad. And of course, I would probably put, you definitely need tahini dressing and maybe just a little harissa. But that's the program today, and I hope everyone's enjoyed it. And Wendy, if there are any questions, you'll let me know. But we're finished on time.
Yes, there are a few questions. Actually, for everyone, we are running just a few minutes over, just in terms of the wrap up. But Carole, you got us. You showed everything by our 6:30 mark, so that's pretty marvelous. And wow, 3 dressings and the falafel. For those of you who are just starting out, as Carole already mentioned, those dressings are really the key to really making all these vegetables and burgers and falafels and things like that very flavorful. So Carole, awesome, awesome, awesome. You've got people saying their mouths are watering and they're ready to come over. Quick question. There's a question about raw sesame seeds versus roasted sesame seeds. Let me see if I can find the actual question. Do you prefer roasted sesame tahini or raw sesame tahini? And if you're making tahini from the sesame seeds, do you use hulled?
Yeah, it's all a very good question, and it's good. Going to try not to have a lengthy answer because I love tahini, and every kind of brand is different. I do buy a brand that I like that is roasted sesame seeds. They're ground by hand, and it makes kind of a runny tahini. I have to order that tahini online. Here in town, I get this artisan organics, which is raw tahini, which is very a thick paste. And the more you experiment is all I can say, and the more different brands you buy. Joya is a common brand that I would actually stay away from. I find it to be the most boring tahini ever. But do try to buy different kinds and different brands, and especially if you live in New York and you can make your way over to Kulistan's to try so many different kinds of tahini. Lebanese, there's different Israeli tahini. Some are runny. I like using several kinds because sometimes it's good to have one. Like I make a really yummy souffle, chocolate souffle that needs specifically runny tahini. Well, this tahini in this jar is not so runny. It's very thick and paste. So, and then hulled seeds are fine. It sometimes you get. I do like to have them roasted just for the extra flavor, but it's a real preference of choice. Is all I'm saying, and I want you to experiment. That's it.
Sorry, the call came through on the computer. I apologize, everybody. Yeah, good point. And also, there is a taste. Different tahinis taste differently. So, thanks for all that. Okay, we are slightly over time. There was a question about the soy sauce and the wasabi dressing, and actually, there was a question whether or not you might have forgotten it, which is not so important. But
Oh, did I forget it entirely?
It's possible.
Wasabi. Oh, I did forget it. I did. I'm sorry that I forgot it. I totally forgot it. And I'm thankful to the person. But it does get 2/4 teaspoons of low sodium
Low
tamari.
sodium. And so
And you could use, if you're not a tamari person, you could use coconut aminos. But to tell you the truth, I didn't put it in and it tastes delicious. So
right,
that would just add another little more Asian flavor to it.
correct. And
And you could
also,
add it right this minute and you wouldn't notice the difference.
and if
Uh,
salt is an issue, then you're better staying away from all of it, including the low sodium versions.
Correct.
So
And
I
then
just
it's
wanted to say that.
taste.
So we are going to wrap up. Carol, thank you so much. I'm not going to run through all the events again, but I know there was a question about Victoria Moran's Age Like a Yogi event, which I believe had to be canceled last week. And we do have another one coming up on February 12th. So we'll encourage you to go to that one. And if another one needs to be inserted, just keep track on our website. Super fast. We have an in-person social coming up on Tuesday. We have a cookbook launch coming up on Wednesday. And there's the Plant Powered Kids Festival this coming weekend. We encourage you to join us for all of it. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for all the lively conversation in the chat, and your questions is just awesome. To the jump starters, good luck, keep going, have strength and resilience. And this is a marvelous way of life. You just need to get through the learning curve, which is lifelong, by the way. Come join us again next month. And let's see, all the links to register for the events are on our website, plantpoweredmetronewyork.org. Carole can be reached at carole@thevegievanguard.com. She's on Instagram. Her handle there is @thevegievanguard. If you'd like, please consider a donation to Plant Powered Metro. We have tons of programs all over the tri-state area, and we'd love to have you join us. And our next demo is going to be February 23rd. And a huge thank you to our producer, James Spellos, who's behind the scenes and helping us do everything really. So thank you very much, everyone. And we love having you here.
Thank
Bye.
you so much, Wendy and Jim, and have a great Valentine's Day. And we're off to the races here in the
We're off to
beginning
the
of the year.
races. Exactly.